I just was researching the history of artificial intelligence and found so many characters that really compelled me in the history, starting with Lady Ada Lovelace, who is the poet Byron's daughter, and came up with some of the first ideas about programming in the 19th century. And then moving through Alan Turing, whose life was amazing, and Joseph Weizenbaum, on whom one of the characters is based, and some of the earliest programmers of computers who are all women and whose work really went completely unrecognized. And it seemed as though so many of these characters were kind of working slightly from the margins of the worlds in which they live. So Lady Ada Lovelace was a woman, and her ideas were kind of dismissed as kooky and insane. And then these female programmers, and Alan Turing, who was gay and whose work was kind of unacknowledged for that reason, and all of the refugees from Nazi Germany who contributed in such huge ways to computer programming in the mid-20th century. And it was just moving to me that all of these characters were coming up with a new kind of intelligence that would also be thought of as sort of strange and marginal and not quite human, having gone through a similar experience themselves in their lives.
So Alan Turing does appear in both of your books, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about his role in the development of smart robots, or you could talk about it other than I can, so it'd be great to hear you.
Well, so in the popular mind, Turing is best known for what is called the Turing test, and he proposed this in 1950 or 1951. And actually, I think it's not well known, but it was originally about gender, being able to tell the gender of the person or thing on the other side, and that's sort of been lost in the Turing test. But the notion was, what's a machine intelligence? He proposed you could say a machine is intelligence if you give a person a keyboard and give them two things to interact with, and if at the end of a long enough period of time, in terms of typing back and forth, you can't tell whether it's a human or a machine on the other side, you could say the machine is an intelligent. And just a couple of quick thoughts. I actually think the Turing test is more about us than it is of anything that machines can do. It's a test of gullibility. And this actually struck me first when I covered the very first formal Turing test, which happened in 1991. And what was interesting about that first test, because they often have different rules, is they had two groups of judges. One was a group of computer scientists, and the other group was a group of people they dragged in off the street. And for all practical purposes, if you took the human judges who were lay people in 1991, we passed the Turing test back then. It didn't take very much to fool these machines, and since then the programs have only become better.
Yeah, I think the question of what fools us into assuming humanity is really interesting. So one of the machines that's done really well in the Turing test is one that just hurls invective at the person who it's talking to. So it just says, you moron, you idiot. And people are very persuaded by this. They really think that that's a good sign of humanity. So sort of what kind of conversation we think is deeply human is an interesting question.
Yeah. And also, conversational systems, what's compelling about Louisa's novel is it explores this space that I think is basically the future of interface. And if you walk around the town I'm living in, the city I'm living in now, I think probably in the financial district, about half the people walking down the streets are looking like this at the palm of their hand. And my sense is that can't be the final evolution of human interfaces with machines. There has to be something next. And so I think it's not surprising, if you know about Siri and Cortana and things like that, we're spending more and more talking to machines that are proxies for humans or are themselves systems that mimic a human.